Right. Welcome to another episode of the Rich Sony podcast. Today we have Rob Janos with us. How's it going, Rob?
It's going, Richard. Can I call you Richard, or you prefer Rich?
You could call me Richard. That's fine. I've been known as Richard
Ricky.
Before, for sure. Ricky is a no. I have a cousin, Ricky.
Cousin Ricky?
Yeah, there's a Ricky and a Richie when we were growing up. Shout out to Ricky. He's 6 months older than me, but we both have the name Richard Sony.
He's your evil twin.
The story is... Yeah, no, he's not evil. He's
maybe
cool.
you're the evil one.
Maybe I am. Who knows? Yeah, but my mom, he's on my dad's side, and my mom's dad's name is Richard, so they already wanted to name me that anyway, so we both ended up with it. I'm sure you're like, yeah, I know, whatever. There's a million Robs. I know Robs everywhere, you know.
I'm on a crusade to, get rid of them all one by one. Just last Rob standing.
Yeah. No. I like Robs. My dad's a Robin.
Oh, yeah. Well, have you seen the meme that goes you're Bobby, then Rob, then Robert, then Bob? As you age, your name just shifts. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. So you're shifting it for me right now to Richard, which is totally cool. I'm down with Richard.
Time comes for us all, man.
It does, and as we get older, I think you notice it more and more. Mm-hmm. What do you got? What are you drinking?
Cheers. I am drinking product placement. You should sponsor this podcast. Baker's 7. This is a Kentucky straight bourbon. It's aged 7 years. I just picked this up today, and it is wonderful. What are you drinking?
Nice. I have Talisker Storm.
Ooh.
I don't know how old it is. I love Talisker, though. Yeah.
I love Scotch.
Me too. I'm much more of a Scotch guy than a bourbon guy. I like all whiskey, but Scotch is my shit.
If you haven't already, I really recommend kind of dipping your toe into the pool of single malt American whiskeys, because they're a real nice meeting in the middle of a bourbon, which is kind of, you get that sweet, you get that caramel vanilla notes, and that kind of heavily peated malty Scotch thing. Really, really nice meeting in the middle. There's some great American single malts.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I actually have drank a lot more of my whiskey recently instead of just getting beer or whatever. I just was I have a bunch of bottles of whiskey. I was saving them for a while, and I'm just why am I saving these? I'm just gonna drink them. And I've gone through them over the past 2 years, so I'm getting down. I got this one at Talisker. I went there.
Oh, nice.
And I got it. And it was my souvenir, you know what I mean? But I'm yeah, I'm going to drink this bottle now. You know, why not? I already had another bottle of it before, but it's good. And I actually broke it out. My buddy got married last weekend, and I brought that, because you always have to have whiskey on hand. You know, it's still in the flask that I had there. It's just the leftover from it.
Well, that has been Whiskey Talk with Bobby and Ricky. Please smash that like button. Yeah.
Hell yeah. What else is going on? Just before we started recording, you were saying that actually tomorrow, which will be the 12th of May, 2024, you will be stopping your regular position of co-host at the Fine Grind, Little Falls, New Jersey open mic.
Yes. So, by the time listeners, catch this, or viewers watch this, if you are familiar with the Fine Grind open mic community, I and my co-host Andrew Newport have been running this in one form or another, starting at Ridgewood Coffee Company and then progressing to Fine Grind after COVID since 2017. So good long while, and it's just, you know what? It's time to move on. It's the open mic is still going to be, be a weekly event. I feel like I've trained Andrew well in the dark arts of, managing all the technical issues. So he's gonna, obviously keep going on, and I will still be there, a lot of times. But yeah, it's that open mic is really something. We were talking earlier about community and kind of building that community and connecting artists and stuff. And that was really one of the things that I'm most proud of, is that open mic community, especially when it was at its best and it was firing on all cylinders. Man, like, that sense of artistic community was incredible. And it came at a time in my life when I had a series of bands and serious bands that I was with for a number of years, and those had just come to an end, and I was really wanting for that community. And, being on my own for the first time was terrifying and depressing, and having that open mic community where it's like, yeah, it's just artists who support each other and really inspire each other in terms of their playing and their writing and their performance. It was really, really something special, and still is. And at the moment I'm I'm producing an album for Andrew and his little brother, Ray Salerno, who was just on your podcast, Mr. Jamie Fett. And they're doing an album together. I'm producing that album for them. So yeah, it's, I've produced songs for Harrison Beath and 2 albums for John Simon, 2 albums for Andrew Newport, singles for Jared Beers, my buddy from Sussex County, and so it's it's something that I will always be a part of that community, and the friends I made along the way will always be a part of my own musical endeavors.
Hell yeah. There's a lot of doors we can open up from there, but I think I'm gonna just go with the first one that popped in my head, which is when you were talking about the community. I just want to give some kudos to you both too, and to that community, because I know it's not just the folks that host the open mic night, it's the folks that come to it and support too. I do really think that open mic night is special, and it's come for me almost at a time where I was phasing out of going to open mic nights, that it kind of has flourished, but it started to flourish while I've had this podcast. So I've had the for the past 3 or 4 years, I've had the pleasure of, even though I haven't been able to go as often, of just hearing stories and being able to appreciate what it is from the window looking in a little bit. But with that, I'm also very interested in forming music community, and I want to know if there's any wisdom or advice you have to share for anyone that's aspiring to create their own open mic night.
So, it's a difficult thing, because if I'm thinking back on, like, really when I mentioned earlier, when that open mic was firing on all cylinders, when just the community was at its strong. It's not to say it's not strong now; it still absolutely is. But I would say, like, kind of right before COVID, was kind of at it in its prime. And ironically, one of the things that caused it was right after we took over from a gentleman named Bruce Atkins, who had run it for a number of years before that. We took over, and the Ridgewood Coffee Company, which was the former location of the open mic before COVID, they got slapped with a cease and desist from, or a shakedown, as you would, from ASCAP BMI for royalties. Now, whether that's from the music, playing on the loudspeaker, or the music being performed there during open mic, you as obviously working for Spotify understand it's like music royalties and copyrights are obviously a big deal, and they're a big deal for a real reason. And we had to basically cut off all cover music from that open mic, and it was strictly enforced. You could not play cover songs unless they were from like prior to 1922, at the time. So we lost a lot of people from that open mic, and it was like, holy shit, like this thing's dying around us. We had a lot of regulars that would come there, and and they would be fantastic, and they would bring people, and they would be an amazing part of the community, but they would perform other people's songs. And that ultimatum that we kind of gave the community, adapt or die, it obviously we lost some people, but the people that stayed and stuck it out came out on the other side even stronger. I mentioned, my good friend John Simon, who I've produced 2 albums for and worked with many times. He was one of those. He was doing a lot of cool Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin covers, coming in every week, and he hadn't really started writing music. And he was forced to, because it was like, if you want to keep coming and you want to keep playing, you gotta start writing your own shit. And it's going to suck. It really is. It's going to suck at first. Growing pains are an absolute, part of being a musician. But you got to suck before you get good. And that's what the open mic became. It became a support system where you would not feel bad bringing something to workshop. Hey, like, this song I'm going to play, it's still kind of a work in progress. And then once they got off stage, people would offer things. Dude, I really like that hook that you brought. Like, what is that chord on the chorus? Like, those lyrics are really, really cool. And that's how you're building that community. It became super collaborative, super supportive. And that was all out of this, ultimatum that we gave the community. And when we were at our best, it was ironically when it was at our lowest, And what I would say as a piece of advice is, even if it is, allowing cover music, encourage people to play their originals, really support each other. And when they do, active listening. Listen to what they're saying, because it takes a lot of balls to go up there and perform. You know this, I know this, everybody knows this. So being, encouraging active listenership, and once they get off, saying, slap on the back and saying, dude, that was fucking awesome. That was a really great song. Like, what else have you got? Maybe it's like, I feel like that needs a bridge. Are you still working on it? Like, or suddenly it's like, oh, I've got something. Maybe we could play together. We could jam sometime. And that's how bands form. And, that's how you get songwriting partnerships. So having that supportive, that collaborative community of artists, that's the dream, man. Where it suddenly becomes like a fertile cultivation of artists.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and that all makes sense to me. It reminds me of comedy, which has come up before, where comedy somehow has baked in, I don't know if comedians did this or the fans did this, but we fight 2 different forces in terms of originality of content, right? Like a musician, when you walk into a venue, it seems that the default of just the basic crowd, and I mean that in like the judgmental term, like of just the basic crowd that you're going to play to, tends to want covers, right? Yeah. So there's like a pull of that, but in comedy, that's pretty frowned upon if you use somebody else's jokes, right? So they have inherently at their open mic nights, they have what you're talking about, right? But it seems like it really works for them, and I've experienced this in my own songwriting as well. But you're right. Sometimes those cover songs do kind of add noise to the system.
Yeah, you become kind of a jukebox, and the mob is fickle. It's all right. You don't want this to be bread and circuses where it's just like you're a fucking jukebox and you're performing for people that are, couldn't give a shit about you, and it's just like they just want background music that they recognize. What I would say is, like, if you are going to cover something, and I take this to heart, or at least I try to, cover something that has some fucking meaning to yourself, like, that connects to you. And don't be afraid to color outside of the lines. Work out a different arrangement. Like, don't imitate the singer. Just have your own voice, have your own style. And if that is a song that means something to you, that inspired you, then you could see how the symbolism or the craft of that song is going to be imparted on your own writing. So, yeah, be artistic about it. That's that's what I would say. Have integrity.
I couldn't agree more. Because I do play a decent amount of covers when I play shows. I like to play really long sets, and those typically require covers to keep a crowd's attention. But yeah, for me, the point of it isn't to be a jukebox. I've never heard that before, but I really like that terminology. I'm going to use that from now on. But it is that, right? Like, I'm much more approaching it to like a band as if I'm like Led Zeppelin or like I grew up listening to classic rock. Yeah. So to me, adding a cover to my set is no different than Eric Clapton playing like a blues song, right?
Absolutely,
playing Crossroads, right? It's not at that point. It's a cover, but it's not. It's its own.
And that's not disparaging of musicians that make their living or get enjoyment out of being in a cover band, because it's like in a lot of cases, if I'm out at a bar, it's like I'd much rather have a band doing Led Zeppelin, or Eric Clapton than listening to a jukebox. I'd much rather have that, because there is going to be some, at least I hope, some spin, some tweak of that material with the voice and the playing of the musician. So it's absolutely, and covers are totally fine. It's like I will be the first to admit that there was a number of years, recently too, where I had the worst writer's block in the world, or I was feeling like shit about my music, and I'm like, I don't want to play my fucking song. So it's so easy to just be like, I'm just gonna play fucking Dead Flowers. Everybody loves Dead Flowers. Just do a Rolling Stones song, and it's so easy just to fall into that groove and be comfortable. Music for me is all about being uncomfortable. Because when you're struggling with yourself, with your beliefs, with your songs, with your voice, with your playing, your environment, that's where real art can come through. It's easy sometimes, going to an open mic and just being like, I don't have to do my stuff. I don't have to bring out stuff that I'm not 100% on. Being uncomfortable is great, and recently I've really tried to thrive in the uncomfortable nature of playing stuff that isn't quite there, or I don't know if it is there or what it's going to be. What if it's going to end up in my trash heap? I don't give a shit. You're going to hear it. Yeah, and I think that's important.
Sure, I do too. I think that it's also, well, first of all, I agree with what you were saying about the covers, and I was thinking about that. And it's interesting, right? Because on the one hand, I do agree with you in the value of a coverless open mic night and the utility that it has on growing a community of songwriters, right? But, also, not everybody's interested in being a songwriter.
No.
Not everybody's interested in being a songwriter yet. Not everybody's interested in writing songs yet. And yeah, sure, if you don't already have your own catalog, you might just be trying to work through performing. And I think that at the Fine Grind, when I used to host, that was a large majority of the cover crowd, was folks that were just starting out performing in general, right? And I think for you and I, we both have been in bands that played original music before we were individual songwriters. So to me, when I started playing at an open mic night, I wasn't I did play covers when I didn't have enough material yet of my own. So maybe we were different for that reason, because you were singing in your band and I was not the singer, right? So I was starting as a singer-songwriter as a singer. But I wasn't looking. I didn't start playing at open mic nights until I had like 4 of my own songs at least, or 5 of them. So I was playing through those, and it was the nights where they're like, "Hey, you want to play some more?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll play Dead Flowers or whatever it is."
Yeah. And you know,
and it's fun.
The way I look at it, and like some people like probably listen to or watching this, this podcast and say, "What a fucking asshole! What a pretentious piece of shit!" Yeah, and I'm like, I get it. It's like the way I carry myself and the kind of standards that I hold myself and my community to are very different than some others. It's like, obviously I want an open mic space to be a safe space for people who are just starting out to be able to go up there and play stuff that they really love and kind of spread their wings and fly. That's all good. The relationship that I have with Andrew Newport, my co-host, who I believe has been on this podcast. I know he did his lead up to totally. His long Valentine's Day thing. So the relationship that we have, the dynamic that we have is great. Like, I always equate it to, I don't know if you've ever watched Parks and Recreation.
I love that show.
He is Leslie Knope, and I'm Ron Swanson. He is the loving, nurturing, figure that always has a good heart and is so optimistic about the world. And I'm like, fuck this shit, get up there and fucking play. Yeah. Don't make me work too hard, and it's like, but the love is still there. It shows up in different forms. And like that's what I've always loved about our dynamic is that we've got the same goal. We're coming, we're playing for the same team, but we're 2 very different people in how we approach a community and approach open mic, which I think is good. It's like having multiple opinions and being able to recognize when somebody's viewpoint doesn't always align with yours, but you could adapt, you can combine, you can meet in the middle, or learn to grow as a person. This is great.
This is true, and that's a pretty good point that you made that I hadn't considered before, which is that part of that success could be from that. Right? Andrew and you both have a very different style, as you said, and if different people relate to that, you may bring back some of these different characters that are coming to the open mic night that kind of build the community up. No, these are all really good insights. I think that the next thing I wanted to ask you about related to this is, as a host, one of the things that I found really difficult when I was doing the fine grind was I wanted to give this active listening, and sometimes I felt very, I wouldn't say obligated, because I really wanted to do it, but I felt like it was a very important part of my job as the open mic host to be at least the only person that's listening to the person that's performing. Like, if there's nobody else looking at them, at least they know that I'm listening, right? But as a participant, I notice when I have my guard down that I don't always do that, and I feel bad about it sometimes, because especially since I don't go as often too, I'll end up just talking with people, or you're talking with the person. Like, if somebody performs and you want to give them feedback, then the next person is performing and they're your friend. You're missing their set while you're giving feedback to this other person. And of course it's not a perfect system, but having done this for so long, I'm sure you're aware of this this situation. And how do you handle it?
It is an undesirable consequence of having a community where you want to workshop. It's not like a writer's round where it's like a show and tell and then discuss. It's not a symposium. It's a bill, a music bill, and I've worked in the music industry as a roadie for 15 years, and like I want to be like, okay, let's fucking move it. Let's go. Let's get you plugged in. Fucking start singing. Let's move on.
Sure.
And I absolutely get it, and even if it's not, even if you can't listen 100% of the time, I think at least carve out a good couple minutes for every performer and just listen. Just shut the fuck up and watch. For a couple minutes. Just get eyes on a person. And I think that is the least you can do. And there's certain nights where it's like, yeah, there's not a big list, and you can fucking shoot the shit, and everybody gets to play 5 songs because there's only 4 people. It's like, yeah, that's going to be the case sometimes. But on the busy nights, like if you can, when you're taking the guitar cable from them, when they're unplugging, just have a couple words. Dude, that was fucking great. That was a great song that you just did. Is that new? Are you recording it? Like be present. That's if only for a small interaction.
Sure, and this is something that benefits the whole open mic night, even if the participants are doing that as well. I'd say, right? Like it's like
yeah.
That has to be a part of the community. That like I'd assume that this is something that's part of the magic of the RCC Fine Grind open mic night, right? Because it seems like people actually know each other, and I can attest to this because I've gone to a bunch of other open mic nights, as I'm sure that you have, and a lot of the participants have. But for some reason, it seems like the attention or like part of the community is the attention, but part of it is just like I think you should comment on that a little bit more because you have more experience with it than me, but it feels like most of it actually is that people just actually listen and get to know each other.
And and it's like, make no mistake, it's like I'm not a paragon of virtue when it comes to this. It's like No,
I'm asking you to be for theoretical purposes.
Yeah, it's like there are going to be some open mics that are special, and like the Fine Grind open mic night that I've run with Andrew. It's like at our best we are something special, and at our worst we're an open mic. We're a platform, and that's okay. But it's for me, it's all about striving to be better and improve, and and expect more of yourself, expect more of the people around you, and have faith in them. That it will just it'll have more victories than losses, and you clinch a spot in the playoffs.
Totally, yeah. I feel that, and I think that's some pretty solid wisdom. Do you have anything else that's buzzing through your mind on the open mic?
No.
If not, I have other questions I want to.
No, like I think we've covered that pretty succinctly. So fire away.
So you mentioned that you've done a lot of roadie work. I didn't know that. What's up with that? What have you done?
So, those who cannot do teach. It's that adage.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized that I wasn't going to be able to make it in the music industry on looks alone, or on my performance alone. It's and I have to do dirty work. Every once in a while. It helps when you're doing like roadie work for something that you love, or band that you respect and you love and you enjoy working for, because I don't work in the music industry full time, not anymore. I've started teaching. I'm a history teacher,
Nice.
as my full time job for the past 2 years. So, but before that, it's like I tried to be selective and really work with artists that I enjoyed, and
where did you let me give you two options, right? Like you could start where you ended with that, like where was kind of your last leg or current leg, or if you want to go back to the beginning and tell how you got started doing that.
Well, I'm a history teacher,
that would be also I'm a history buff, so I'm inclined to go back to the beginning and just start there. Let's do it.
My first road work is actually with the band that I have through some divine intervention still been working with 15 years later.
Nice.
In 2009, I started working for a band called Led Zeppelin. You said you're a fan of classic rock. Led Zeppelin is an all-girl Led Zeppelin tribute band. They've been around for a very long time, and I was a very big fan of them. You know, back in high school and early college, like I would go to their shows. I became friends with the band, and there was an opportunity in 2009. They were doing a show in Mumbai, India. Like, not Indiana.
Okay.
India.
Yeah.
And
Mumbai.
this coked out dipshit fucking manager that they had at the time was like, let's bring a fan with us. I think that'd be fucking great, because it'd be like, you know, bring somebody to Neverland, you know. And ironically, they asked my girlfriend at the time, and she couldn't do it. She had just moved away. And they asked me, and my most recent band had just broken up. This was early 2009, so the recession was hitting. I just lost my job. I just lost, you know, my band. I wasn't going, like, my college education went up in fucking smoke. So they're like, hey, do you want to go to fucking India? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I do. Let's fucking go. You know? So I went and I did this show, and I basically said, like, I love you guys, and I've seen you guys. You girls, rather, because they're all girls. But I'm like, put me to work. Like, you don't got a crew, but you fucking brought a fan, you know, with you?
Yeah,
put me to work. I'll tune guitars. I'll set up fucking amps. I don't give a shit. You know, I'll do it.
Yeah,
You know, you pay for my plane ticket and hotels, is the least I could do. So...
sure. You'd probably like to do it, you know, instead of sitting around while they're doing all that shit.
So that's what I did, and, you know, we were there for about 5 days, and on the last day, they're like, hey, you know, I don't know if you've got anything going on, but we're leaving for a 3-month tour and not coming back for, you know, for 9 weeks. Do you want to come? And just, like, do merch.
That's
do
awesome.
merch. You know, and I'm like,
sure.
Fuck yeah, let's fucking go.
Again,
you know? Once again, no job, no school, no bands. My girlfriend just moved away. Let's do it, you know? Yeah. And, you know, throughout that tour, like, it's, if you've ever seen the movie Almost Famous, I started that tour as, you know, was it William Miller? You know, the young, blue-eyed, bushy-haired kid, you know, who's just, like, in love with the idea of rock and roll and the spectacle of concerts. And by the end, I had, you know, seen people fucking die, and I had seen, you know, shows careen off a fucking cliff. And, yeah, I gained probably half of my gray hairs on that tour, you know, as a 20.
Where was the tour?
So we started in Boston, and we did a loop around the United States. So, you know,
okay,
we headed to Boston, then Portland, then Poughkeepsie, then Cleveland, then Detroit, Chicago, the Dakotas, Idaho, like, and we did a big loop. Around the country, and, you know, I'm fortunate. I've been to 49 states. You know, like, yeah.
Nice.
So
I've wanted to go to everyone.
Yeah.
I haven't.
So I just hit number 49, which was Alaska a couple of years ago. But, you know, I've been to all the contiguous United States, and it was because of a tour like that allowed me to see, you know, the best and worst parts of this country. And I've been with that band in one capacity or another for 15 years now. I started doing merch, started doing some tech, guitar tech, sound. I've done monitors. I've done tour managing. I've done drivers. I've done, you know, just every job under the sun for this band. This Friday, I'm leaving for New Orleans. We've got a blues festival in New Orleans, so that's going to be a fucking blast.
Cool.
So I just started an Instagram page for music, because I think I was telling you earlier that it's like I've done a really shitty job of coming down from the mountains, you know, and being visible, promoting myself, like promoting my art for years now, and I've never done really any public documentation of my work in the music industry as a performer, as an engineer, and I'm starting to do that. So I'm starting to do like travel vlogs, like tour vlogs, where like, you know, I'll film some cool behind the scenes shit, because I'm like, I have so much fun on these things. I love doing it. You know, that's why, you know, even though I have a full-time job, I still kind of keep one foot in the pool at all times, just because I love it, you know. So yeah, you know, just, you know, you know,
what do you love about it? What is the best part?
You know, it's sometimes. Well, I'll always start with the worst part. As a musician, sometimes it feels like,
well, that's fine.
Always,
yeah. I like
yeah, always a bridesmaid, never a bride kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like I've done a show at Madison Square Garden. You know, not the theater at Madison Square Garden, fucking Madison Square Garden, halftime at the Knicks game. And being in that arena that so many amazing concerts that have been in, and playing a fucking Marshall stack at full volume and just hitting a power chord on a Les Paul and just hearing it reverberate. I'm just like, fuck, you know, why isn't this me? Because I'm not good enough. That's why it's not me. Or I haven't had the lucky breaks, or, you know, whatever. I didn't sell my soul. I sold my soul to the wrong fucking devil at the crossroads. I don't know. You know, I should have sold it to Baal or fucking Anubis or something like that. Yeah. So, you know, the worst parts are that it absolutely fucking kills me physically. It kills me and drains me mentally sometimes. You know, touring is not glamorous. It is not. You know, I've seen a lot of cockroaches in motels. I've seen a lot of bed bugs. You know, I've seen a lot of sleepless nights. I've seen overdoses. I've seen deaths. I've seen births. I've seen the best and fucking worst of it. You know, but what makes me coming back, it keeps me coming back, is that, you know, I love the spontaneity of it. I love the energy of when you go back to a place that you absolutely love, a venue, you're working with a crew that you've worked with many times, and you're just like, this is home. But for me, Detroit is like that. I absolutely love that city. Every time I go, I'm like, fuck. I almost consider buying a house there. I really did a couple years ago. So it's like, yeah, you know, and then seeing my friends, you know, the girls of Led Zeppelin specifically, you know, the main band that I've worked with, they're like my sisters. Steph Payne's the guitar player. She was one of my best men at my wedding. Best woman at my wedding, whatever, you know, nomenclature. Sure, yeah. You know, it's up to you. Yeah. I mean, they're like my sisters. They're my family, and you know, it's sometimes you hate your family, and sometimes you love your family, and, you know.
Oh yeah. And you're spending so much time together too.
Yeah, you know, and yeah, I've seen some shit.
I haven't toured, but I just imagine. Yeah. You know.
Thankfully, I have a wife that's very understanding and very chill about me spending, you know, time with, you know, 4 women, you know, like in hotels in a van, you know, for days at a time. Yeah. So it's, you know, like, yeah, there's not, it's all not always glamorous.
Yeah. This is all interesting. So, you know, those are both worst and best of it. How have you grown as a songwriter, musician, performer through your work that you've done as a writer?
I think I see things a lot differently. It's like I've seen the other half of the coin. So I'm able to recognize, if I'm at a concert or in a recording studio, that there's a right way and a wrong way of going about doing something like that. Wrong way would be to have a shitty fucking I'm better than you attitude, bow down to me, you know, selfish nature to your playing, your behavior. And then there's the how I'd like to approach it, you know, more often than not, is to have that very drilled, consistent, professional attitude. And that comes to a detriment. Like, my main band for, you know, 7 years was a band called Asphalt Gray. we did 3 albums, we did so many shows. Elisa, Ronnie, and Zach are, I've played more with them than any other people when we were a band. And they'd be the first to tell you, like, sometimes that need to be professional, you can come off like a fucking asshole sometimes, And they, 2 of those guys, Ronnie and Zach, are a lot younger than me, so they had this kind of reckless punk rock attitude about a lot of stuff, and I had to, I hated being the fucking adult in the room. Or trying to be the adult in the room and rain on their parade, or to, like, guys, let's pump the fucking brakes for a minute. It's, there's a good and a bad side to that, to being professional and seeing some shit and seeing how a successful band goes about their career, and seeing what a fucking amateur band looks like. A band that's going to overstay their welcome, that's going to be an inconvenience and not give a shit about other bands. It's like, I don't want to be that. That would be,
Sure.
That'd be my worst nightmare, would be for somebody to call me selfish or self-obsessed about, myself or my music, and not caring about those around me. Whether that be a sound guy or another band, that would be like a fucking dagger, And, I definitely don't want that.
Yeah. What you're saying, if I'm hearing correctly, and I'm making these generalizations just for fun. I know that they're not generalizations, right? But overall, right? Like it sounds to me like in your experience that you've dealt with more of that at the level of dealing with bands, which are by definition should be something that's more communal than it seems to be when you're dealing with solo artists. Is that true?
That is true. And the tricky thing about a band is that I've been on both sides of that coin, where part of me says, yes, it is a band is a team. It is a fucking collaborative effort. It's a democracy. It is like all for one, one for all, support each other, and warts and all. Then the other half of me has seen that it's like sometimes there needs to be a fucking adult in the room, and there needs to be a leader. And whether that is going to make you the villain in your own, fairy tale, like, it's sometimes that's your burden to bear. And I see both sides. I've been both sides. And sometimes somebody to lay the cards on the table, put their foot down and say, this is how we need to do this, is uncomfortable, but it is, it is the way to go. Sometimes a band needs to be a dictatorship. And as I said, I'm a history teacher.
Sure.
Ancient Rome, when they were at their best, when they were a republic, yes, is when there's the Senate and the 2 consuls working together to fix a common issue. But sometimes you need a fucking Cincinnatus, you need a Marius, you need a Sully, you need a Caesar to fucking lay down the law and say, this is how we're going to fucking do this. And if you can't deal with that, tough shit. It's, you always hope for it to be the Republic, but I think that a band needs to have at least 1 or 2 people that steer the ship. There needs to be a captain. There needs to be a quartermaster. Otherwise, like, you could get very different artistic visions for a band, too. I think, like, for instance, that band Asphalt Gray, my main project for a number of years. I started that band after working with Les and seeing how the music industry works. And I had rules that I set in stone. Like, I started the band. I invited all of these people from different spots because I admire them as musicians. And I said, I'd love to work with you. I'd love to work with you. Let's get together and jam. But so I tried to, at least at the beginning, be a little bit of a mediator, a captain, where I'm going to lay down the law of the land. So I remember saying, in terms of the image of the band, we might not be the best band on a show, but we gotta at least look the part, you know. So I had 2 rules for the band. I said, no fucking, because it was a mixed gender band and we had some LGBTQ people in the band. So it's like, don't sleep with each other. This is not Fleetwood Mac. No, it doesn't work. You don't shit where you eat. And then second, slightly less serious, but serious all the same, no shorts on stage. Don't wear fucking cargo shorts on my stage. Like, go and see the Rolling Stones. Go and see, you know, the Foo Fighters. Go and see these bands that are headlining, you know, stadiums and arenas and selling millions of albums. What do they look like on stage? Are they wearing like a fucking football jersey and flip-flops and cargo shorts with a backwards baseball cap? You know, and it's like mismatched colors and shit? No. They've got a fucking image. So I took very, very much pride in making sure that it's like we could look like the hottest shit on the planet. You know, even if we're not feeling it, even if we're not sounding like it, you know, we could come in, you know, leather jackets, fucking jeans, cool boots, you know, dark colors, and just look like, who the fuck are these guys? Like the Velvet Underground, you know, fucked Jack White and just in a dark alley, and this is what comes out, and it's like, this is fucking cool, man. You know, and you know, so it's.
I've seen bands like that before too, and I've seen some videos of you all, and I get that. That's
you know,
cool.
and you know, it's not always that case. You know, it's like my most recent band, the Buzz and the Hum. I did 2 records with those guys. And that was a healing experience because Asphalt Gray exploded into a million pieces and did not obviously did not make it, and you know, broke up contentiously, although wounds have healed and things like that. But my next band, the Buzz and the Hum, I kind of let my hair down a little bit more, and you know, I tried to make it more collaborative and try not to take myself so seriously. And truth be told, I had a lot more fun in that band where I wasn't. First of all, I wasn't the only singer. The thing I loved about Buzz and Hum is that there was 2 singers, 2 lead vocalists, 2 lead guitar players, and 2 visions. There's the Buzz and the Hum, and they come together, and it's fucking chaotic, and it's noisy, and it's cool, you know. And I loved that there was 2 different vibes that the music can go in, and you know, like I think I still said no shorts on stage, but I think I said, yeah, you could fuck each other. I don't give a shit. You know, whatever. We're not making it. Yeah.
Sure. This is some good wisdom, right? And like I was saying, right? Like I think there's some real experience you're sharing there too, where it's like when you're in a band, even though it seems like it might be something, and it is something that's more collaborative. At the same time, there's different levels of investment that each member is putting into it. There's different levels of expectation. It's a whole interconnected relationship between all these different people. And then you have all of that going on, and then you're going to these shows where you need to be like networking and, you know, building a fan base and talking to these people. And everyone has a different perspective on that as well. So that's possibly why you would get these slightly more utopic environments when we're talking about individuals, because each person is the only one that's showing up and has to be in charge of their own personal brand. And if their brand is an asshole, they can do that. Yeah. If they want to sleep with one of the other open mic night people or whatever, they could do that. Yeah. Nobody else cares, right? And like, it's just interesting. I never thought about this before.
You know,
honestly, but it makes a lot of sense.
It's way easier to be a solo artist, you know, and you know, it's something that I really hated to admit for the longest time. You know, Asphalt Gray broke up in 2017. Buzz and Hum, you know, we did 2 records. but it was a very hands-off band. It was not like, we would do like 2 shows a year when we felt like it, or we got the invite to do a cool show, and we did the 2 records, but we didn't even do physical copies, We're just like, throw it on Spotify, whatever. Yeah. I'm not expecting much of this. It's just because I had so much fun with them. It was a low stakes, zero drama band. The exact opposite of Asphalt Gray. But after Asphalt broke up, I had like some serious self-loathing, self-doubt shit. And ironically, that's around the time that the open mic started and kind of helped fill that gap. But that band, two of the members went off and made a new band, and they were very successful at it. And I resented that a lot. I said, like, why the fuck isn't this Asphalt Gray? Why aren't we doing this as a band? I thought we were in this shit together. I thought we were a team. I felt betrayed. I felt depressed. The idea of doing my own music for a long time felt like masturbation to me. I really did not like the idea. I wanted that collaboration. I wanted, to not be the only voice in the room. I really hated that. And that's probably why Buzz and Hum kind of went the way it did, was very chill, no drama, collaborative band where it was 4 very distinct voices in that band. Because I was just so reactionary. I'm just like, I don't want this. I don't want this. It felt like masturbation. And the even worse than that was, I hate doing solo shows. I hate just going up there for a long time. Even today, still, I don't like it. Going up there with an acoustic guitar and saying, everybody look at me. It's just me. It's just my acoustic guitar. You're paying to see me. Fucking listen. Watch. Appreciate. Like that. Like, I didn't like that. But somehow, even like, and this is how I got in my own head, was on top of that, the idea of, okay, well, what if it's a solo project? What if it's me, Rob Janos, and a band behind me? Not me in the band, Rob Janos and the Heartbreakers, Rob Janos and the Crickets, and that felt even fucking worse, because suddenly it felt like, this is still masturbation. There's no collaboration. But now I'm like, okay, you two, watch me masturbate. and
I got you.
And play along.
Yeah.
Like, that felt even worse. And that's no knock against somebody like Andrew Newport, who I respect immensely as an artist. I think the record that he did with Andrew and the Valentines and in the band that he does is fucking great. And they all seem like they just fucking dig playing with each other. Like, no drama, just like, we're just gonna play, we're gonna have fun. Doesn't matter whose songs. We've all got our other things going on. That's totally cool. This is just one of those things. That could not resonate with me for a very long time. And ironically, recently, I finally forced myself to kind of adapt and come around to that idea, where my next big album that I'm hoping to record sometime this summer, after many years of not being able to write music, suddenly I'm writing a lot more, and these songs that I'm writing, it can't be just me. I've done 2 solo records where it's just acoustic guitar and my voice and like a couple overdubs here or there. I did 2 records of that. And I didn't want to do another one of those. I'm like, wow, I've got these songs. I like these songs. I'd like other people to play on those songs. But I have an idea, I have a vision of how these songs need to come out in the studio and live. So what are you going to do? You ask around and you say, hey, would you be interested in playing on some stuff of mine? You know, so that's what this project is, you know, is hopefully going to be. That, you know, sometime this year or next year is going to be Rob Janos and the Expatriates. You know, Expatriate was the name of my first solo record, and it was the idea of just being stranger in a strange land and being out on your own, away from your home country. And, you know, that I liked that idea of just, you know, having musicians, you know, that I respect and I love playing with, or love their music and have never gotten the chance to play with them, and invite them to just play, you know, with me. You know, last week I was jamming with James Mulrooney, who is the drummer in Buzz and Hum. I absolutely love this kid. He's one of the best drummers I've ever worked with. And so I've worked with him. I did 2 records with him and a number of shows with him. But the person on bass is, I'm not sure if you know him. I assume you do. Ryan Kleber, who was in the...
I've heard his name.
Yeah, he's, you know, I met him through the open mic. And he's probably one of the most talented guitar players, musicians that I know. And I've never played with him before. We've never worked together. And I'm like,
oh, cool.
Well, let's fucking jam sometime.
Let's do it. We're
very A-type personalities. I thought for the longest time we wouldn't work in a collaborative band because we'd be, you know, like this, 2 very different visions. But I figured, like, hey, you know, it's like if I'm setting the parameters and I'm bringing the songs to the table, it's not necessarily a collaborative in terms of the writing process. Like, I think he'd be an awesome person to play with. So,
sure. Yeah. I think that, you know, what you brought up is actually something I've thought about, all of that, over the course of my becoming a solo artist. You know, being in a band, I was not the front man in my bands, like I was saying, and I kind of had it from the other end, right, where I was like wanting to have more creative control, and I signed up for bands that had those parameters. There wasn't contention at all. It was more just like, all right, like, I don't want to do this as much anymore. If I'm spending all of this time, I want to start writing my own songs. And, you know, my life had been changing, graduating school, moving in with my wife, getting my job. All of that stuff kind of led me to want to take a hiatus. And then when the dust had cleared and I wanted to start creating again, I had just started writing songs on acoustic guitar for the first time ever. It didn't feel like I needed to jam with people. It felt like I had gotten into Bob Dylan. That was like a big change for me. I had never really listened to him as much. I was more like of a Beatles guy, right, or whatever. So it's like, sure, I need collaborators, right? But getting into Bob Dylan, I started being like, no, I think I could just sit down and write a song myself.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, maybe I could go and perform a song myself, and I don't need to book like a weird show where I'm like on the bill with all these people. I could just go to an open mic night. And it all kind of unfolded. I think I had more tolerance probably than you as a solo artist, because I have like 6 albums that I managed to do myself. But now, as I'm on the 7th one, it's become difficult in the past few years, especially with life changes, having kids and just being older and, you know, having less free time, that type of thing. As I've grown as an engineer, an audio engineer and a songwriter, I want these numbers. Like, I don't want to just have like an acoustic guitar song. So I've thought that I've dabbled with this in my mind now, and even with my latest album, that I just always cringe when I talk about it on this podcast, but I do it every time.
Yeah.
It fucking comes up. But I do have an album that I've been working on for like 2 years, and it's like taken me a long time, but I work on the podcast more than the album. That's why. But like, which I want to, right? Like that's what I want to do, but I do want to finish that album. But it's like, do I, even if I'd finish it or not, right? Well, I'll finish it, but if I'd finish it with other artists or not isn't neither here nor there. But after that, I want to do something similar to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, it seems very interesting to me, and maybe Andrew and the Valentines even have inspired me seeing it work in that way. It's kind of like, I do want that collaboration. It's like, I did write the song, I wrote it on acoustic guitar. I personally, this might be a difference between us, it might be a similarity between us, I'm not sure, we can unpack that, but I actually have gotten excited at the idea of just like shaking the frickin' whole thing up and being like, all right, I wrote these on acoustic guitar and I played them and performed them all the time. But, like, whatever. Like, I have the words and I care about that, and the rest, like, let's just do whatever. Let's figure out something that sounds cool to, like, us five.
Yeah. I think limitation and being able to have a song be expressed in a different means than you initially realize can be very healthy. I like the idea of, you see, like, I'm not sure how you approach it or what you do. Like, I have the capability, like, if I wanted to and I had the time, I could just play every instrument on the album. Like, aside from, like, some weird horns or shit. And it's like, yeah, I'll just, play the guitar, and then I'll play the keyboards, and then I'll play the bass, and I'll play the drums, and I'll sing, and I could do backing vocals. It's like, like, you can do that, but it's sometimes, it's like, I absolutely see that, okay, maybe I didn't envision, maybe I wrote this song on piano, but I didn't envision what it would sound like with drums on it. Or maybe I had this grand idea for this song that would have a string quartet on it and a horn section and all this stuff, but you realize that you can't have that. So what do you have? How can you attack a song with the tools that you have? I think is another skill that is a great one to have.
Yeah, this is true. And that's what's burnt me out, right? So the last album I had come out with in 2019, I started to dabble with this, and I felt very uncomfortable. It's funny, too, because my original instrument was drums. I played drums for like 13, 14 years or something before I became a songwriter on guitar. But, like, drums, crossing that drum line boundary was something I never wanted to do. I didn't want to add, like, programmed stuff in there, or, like, I don't have enough equipment to record my own kit. I could do that probably now. I've thought about doing it, honestly. But, like, I didn't do it. So, like, that album got pretty close to what we're talking about without crossing that line. And then when Harrison did his compilation last year,
yeah,
I was like, I'm going to take a break. I'm like kind of in between projects anyway. I'm working on this other album, but it's like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it yet. I had all the songs, but they're all good, and I'm sitting on it because I have 6 albums. Of the last 2 have been pretty decent, and then I feel like the recording is, I could have done better, so now I'm like, let me wait. But with that, I was like, I'm going to do the drums and all the shit, play everything this time. And I was happy with the way it came out, but it took a lot more time to get it to a place where I'm happy. Where I think if I had musicians, I could be like, that's actually good enough. I don't have to sit here and come up with a whole bass part, because I'm not really a bassist. Not in this band. I've been a bassist in bands before, and when I'm only the bassist, sure, it's fun to write an original bass part, but when you have to, like, when you already wrote the song and you're just like, all right, let me get the bass done today, you're not in the right mindset to, like, come up with anything novel.
I think that's where, at least my experience as a session musician and being able to kind of come in when there is a part that needs to be played, but there isn't anything written down. Like, I can't read music. So, okay, somebody brings this song and they're like, I'd really love, mandolin on this. I'm like, okay, well, I play mandolin. Let's get some mandolin on it. And I love the thinking on your feet nature of session work, where it's just like, time's money, they're paying you to be here, they're paying you to play your instrument and record it, write something. I love that. I thrive in those high pressure situations where it's just and just let's see what we can get. Sometimes it might not be as inspired as something that you've thought out and you've crafted. Like if you're playing this guitar solo and you had a week to write out this fucking solo that would make Prince roll over in his grave to hide his erection. It's like, yeah, that's fucking great. But then sometimes it's like, yeah, you got 5 minutes like before the session's over, just fucking play something. And and sometimes that's fucking great too. And I will add, by the way, I really enjoyed, speaking of Harrison's Songs to Add Light to the Dark compilation. I really liked your track on there. That was Trouble in My Happiness.
Yeah. Thanks.
That was really cool.
Yeah, you had one on there too, right?
I did. I put it under a different name. I put it under the Sons.
Yeah, it was Sons of Someone.
Yeah. So that was an idea that I had for a while, and I still haven't really dove into it. Maybe I'll do it after I do these. It's possible 2 records now because I've got so much fucking shit that I gotta put out at this point. After I do these expatriate things, I have this idea. It's called the Sons of Someone and the Songs of Somewhere, where I have so many amazing musician friends of mine. Musician family of mine. My father is a musician. He's been playing guitar and bass and singing since the 60s. And I've never wrote a song with him. We've played together. I used to, accompany his band for bar gigs, doing Beatles and Beach Boys stuff. But, it's, we've never wrote a song together. Or, Andrew Nieporn. We keep coming back to him. I've known that guy for years now. We've recorded albums together. I've covered songs of his on one of my records. I've never wrote a song with him. Wouldn't it be cool to collaborate with all of these people in my life that I haven't had the opportunity to, or I haven't done in a very long time? So that's what the Sons of Someone idea was. Where I would just build like a mobile recording studio out of an iPad and like an interface and a couple microphones, and just bring the studio to all these cool places and write and record with all these cool people. The idea of taking a day, writing a song from start to finish with a person, and then recording it. That was the idea of the song of the Sons of Someone. And the track that is on that compilation that I added is called Worth All the While. And the story of that was, I used to have this band very early on called Steel Battalion, named after a really bad video game. And that was like my first band, right at, like in high school. And the bassist in that band, a guy named Pick Lemons, very good friend of mine for many years, and I hadn't worked with him in a very long time. So, and then he kind of had a personal tragedy in his life, which I don't want to kind of elaborate on too much, but he was going through it, and the stars aligned that he was in town once, and we hadn't written anything in probably 10 years. And it was just like, let's grab a couple acoustic guitars, let's jam. And we wrote this song in probably 20 minutes, half hour. Pitt is very, in terms of the way he writes, he's like fucking ChatGPT. He just spits out verbiage for songs. He's a great lyricist. And I like working on the fly and kind of throwing shit together, as you go. So, yeah, we wrote this song quick, and then I'm just like, let me grab my iPad. Let me grab a microphone. Let's throw it down. You're here. We got time. Let's do it. And it's honestly one of my favorite songs that I've ever had the pleasure of working on. It was such a moment in time. It was such a snapshot of how Pitt and I were feeling about the world, about each other at the time. And yeah, it was just like, it was magic, and I wish it was always that easy. So it was never that easy with Pitt in the past, so we were always butting heads and stuff. Yeah. So it was great. So that's when Harrison, put forward this idea of putting this compilation together. And I said, I absolutely want to add something to this because, I respect Harrison. I loved what he was trying to accomplish, for the proceeds of that album. But at the time I was not writing anything. I was in just a 3-year long dry spell of not writing. So I was like, you know what? I have this song. This project is on ice until I, find the time and the effort to do this, project with a bunch of other people. So let me at least take this song, which I've had sitting here, recorded and mastered and mixed for years now, and at least give it, some shine. So that ends in the spirit of, mental illness and things that the compilation was for. It just felt like absolutely the right case.
Hell yeah. And you know what? It's interesting because this is one of the first things I had listened to that you had recorded, and then going back and listening to your solo stuff and the I listened to your other projects as well. This is like different than all of that, and it makes sense that that it was a collaboration, and I think that's a really cool idea. Yo, I gotta go. My wife is texting me. My daughter isn't going to sleep. If this isn't enough time, I'm gonna check when we're editing it. We could do another. We can continue it, but it might be enough.
I've enjoyed our time together. And
Same.
and anytime we want to shoot the shit, I'm always down.
Sick, man. Yeah, I'm sorry. This has never happened before. It's literally the only time that's ever happened. But this has been real. Enjoy your last open mic night tomorrow.
Thanks, bro.
We'll talk soon.
Hope to catch you soon.
I'll message you and email you.
Yeah, sounds good, brother.
See you.
Take care.